Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. Today we are building this nice new workbench torsion box top. This thing is dead flat, leveled out, solid. I'm excited about it. Here we go. This project is long overdue. My old bench, which you'll see later in this video, I'll show you that, is just not flat, big dip in the middle, and just not really built that well. It did have some good storage and stuff like that, but it's just not what I really need. And for the upcoming projects we have with a bunch of interior doors that we're making, we're gonna have a vacuum bag, gluing veneers, and so I needed a dead flat surface to work on. So that kind of forced me to take the time to do this. So Rowdy and I took the day Friday to get this thing knocked out. I've been here, it's Saturday right now. I've been here today sanding this thing, putting some finish on the top. I still want to get a couple more coats on it, but it is looking really good. I do plan on adding some storage cabinets and drawers under this thing, but that will be for another video. For now, we're just going to get this thing knocked out. But before we get into it too much, I do want to shout out some new Patreon supporters: Alex A, Sam Charita, hopefully I said that right, and Tyler R. New Patreon supporters. Appreciate you guys. If you want to sign up and help support the page through Patreon, you can do that. The link is below. All my socials are below. My website, you can get some merch, some hats, some shirts, whatever. But let's get into this thing and I'll show you how we made this. Okay, so to build a torsion box top, you need a flat surface to build it on. And timing is everything, because we have this kitchen island sitting here that is perfectly level, and we're going to use this thing to build our torsion box top on. So this side, we've got those wide drawer banks, and it was sagging a little bit in the middle. So we're adding a couple pieces of plywood on the side. It's giving us something to screw into, and then we're using this as kind of like a straight edge to support our piece of plywood that's on the top and keep it nice and flat. And then I've got a block with a line on it, and I'm just going around and making sure my laser is right on that thing. We did have a little bit of shimming here and there to get it good, but we got it just right. I'm just making a cut list and starting to rip up some plywood. So the plywood we're using is 3/4, and it is for the base, and then we move to the MDF, and the MDF is what we're going to build the torsion box top out of. And I would suggest not using MDF from the home center. It is never good material, in my opinion, or at least that I've gotten. So while I was cutting that stuff up, Rowdy started cross-cutting all our plywood parts for the table base. And then here he is assembling some of the legs. The legs are just an L. We put some glue, brad nails, and then we pre-drill and screw them together. Nothing really fancy, but this is a super solid table leg. And then there you can see them, what they look like. And I didn't want to bore you with the cross-cutting of all the plywood parts, but we've got 50 of these pieces going in the center of the torsion box. These are kind of like the ribs and going to give everything strength. So everything got pocket holes, which we ended up only using about half of, which you'll see. And here we are assembling. We're kind of working from the ends and meeting in the middle. I've got some spacers there. So we're clamping, gluing and clamping, and then pocket screwing each piece in. And now you'll see as we put the center rib in, we weren't really able to pocket screw the opposite way into the next apron piece or rib piece, whatever you want to call it. So we get glue on everything on the ends, and then we're just going to brad nail this on. And with the glue and everything, this is more than strong enough for what we're doing. This whole thing is glued together, and at the end it is solid. Rinse and repeat, and just keep moving down the line. Now we offset the next set just so it wasn't perfectly in line with the other one, so they're kind of in the middle, and you can see there each kind of pieces offset a little bit. And once we kind of got rolling with this, it didn't take too long. And there's Rowdy. So one of the reasons I hired Rowdy, if you see that hat he's wearing, well, yes, he is a Cowboys fan. And let me just say that we don't have high expectations this year, but you never know. Got to have hope. And then on the last section, I counted 2 pieces short because 2 of the sections took 11 ribs and the rest of them took 10. And so I only made 50. So we were 2 short, and we just made those couple sections a little bit bigger, but it was totally fine. So here I'm cutting the bottom. Now the bottom is smaller than the top because I wanted my top piece to overhang. So my bottom is going to fit flush with this box here. And then it was off to the races with the glue. But I wanted the bottom to be flush, and then we flip this over, and you'll see when we put the top on, we have an overhang around the whole thing. Just giving me something to clamp to or whatever when we're working on the bench. So everything gets glued here, and then we get this piece on. Now our whole assembly was a little bit out of square, so we started in one corner and just kind of work our way around. I'm doing some weird kind of dance trying to get this thing lined up. So we're just tacking it with some brad nails, and originally I thought, well, we'll just nail it and it'll be fine. And then, yeah, right there, we decided, let's screw this thing down. And so I started pre-drilling. Rowdy went behind me and started setting screws. Now I wasn't particular about the spacing of the screws on this side because, like I said, this is the bottom. When we flip it over and screw the top down, take our time and lay out the screws so they're equal going down. And then to flip this thing over. Now this thing is heavy. It's all 3/4 inch MDF. But look at that, looking nice. That thing is not really flexing at all, which is pretty impressive. I've never built a torsion box before. I've watched plenty of videos of other woodworkers making them. But I am, like I said, very impressed with the construction of this thing. You can see how nice and flat that is looking. So it's really, you got to make sure you have a flat surface to work on and make sure all your cuts and everything and all those ribs are nice and square and tight. And then back to gluing, and then we'll get this top put on. And you can see that corner right there by Rowdy's hand. Of course, we ended up with a damaged corner, but we'll take care of that later. And so we make sure our spacing is good all around, and then we're gonna lay out some lines for the screws. And we were able to get this whole top put together once all the pieces were cut. It probably took us an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to get this thing assembled. It's kind of tedious stuff, a lot of screws, a lot of nails and glue and stuff like that, but it was really not difficult, just tedious. But having the 2 of us going at this thing at the same time sure made it quick. And it has been awesome having Rowdy in the shop. He's a cool guy. We get along good. And yeah, it's just kind of fun to have somebody else to work with. And so here we go assembling the base. Now I didn't want to put this together until we had the top made so we could put it together on the top so that this thing was nice and flat. So we get that section put together, and then we glue in the legs on. Just tacking it with some brads, and then we'll go and pre-drill and screw everything. No fancy crazy joinery on any of this. It's all very simple but very effective and solid construction. So then right here we're clamping in some spacers for the bottom section. Now the base is upside down right now, so then you'll kind of see we drop this section down so it sits on those spacers. We did glue in there, And then same thing, get the legs nailed and screwed on. And then the base is done. And we can bring it over and put it in place. And so I did want to level this thing and get it nice and level, because I want a level flat bench. That's the whole point of this thing. And when I set my laser, I was pretty surprised because my other section of the floor where I set cabinets and stuff is way out of level. And this, from one end to the other, was about a 32nd of an inch. So I planned to scribe the legs to the floor, but with that little bit, I just put some 32nd inch shims under that one end and called it good. And I toe screwed this thing to the floor. You can see I added a couple legs in the middle there, just so that over time this thing doesn't sag. And so here we go, we're bringing this thing over, and it is heavy. It's pretty much 3 full sheets of MDF is what we used with very little waste. 3/4 inch MDF. And it's on. Look at us. Nice job, man. No, you did a nice job. We're awesome. And then I did put some pocket holes in the bottom of those pieces in the base so that I can just screw the top to the base with some pocket screws. And then it was to sanding this thing, which I don't want to bore you with too much because it's not really that exciting. And then we're going to fix that corner. So this was an old jig I had laying around to round over some corners, and I decided we're going to hit all the corners with this. Now you can see here I didn't completely get the whole thing, but we're going to fix that. I put some CA glue in there and did a bunch of layers to kind of build it up and just get that thing nice and solid. And then we go around and just round over all the corners. See what they're looking like there. Looks just nice and clean. And then I go around and kind of break all the edges and sand all the edges so that I don't have any sharp corners on this thing. I didn't plan on doing this, and then right before I went to put some finish on it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to Bondo and fill all the screw holes in the top. Not totally necessary, but I just kind of felt like doing it, so I did it. So bondoed everything, sanded everything nice and smooth, and then for finish on this, I'm just using this water-based poly. I've done this before on my workbenches. Can build a lot of coats really quick, and it's a good finish. Basically is going to keep glue and everything like that from sticking to it. It just works really good, and if you go through it or sand through it, it's real easy to apply another coat. All right, so before we take apart the old bench, I wanted to just kind of show you guys what's wrong with this thing. It's been great in the fact that I've got big drawers for storage. I got the vac pad thing on the side. I have storage on the other side. It's not been great because this thing is not flat at all. It has a bunch of flex in it in the middle. I had these casters on it that you step on and it lifts up so you can roll it around. So that's why the drawers are opening right now, but it's just not good for what I need. I should have taken the time a long time ago to do this, but I didn't. I built this when I moved into the other shop in Bend, and I kind of just threw it together. It's obviously 4x4 posts with some 2x4s and stuff, and then I ended up building a cabinet inside it afterwards. So the framing underneath here is just 2x4s, which we all know it's gonna flex. And so now to take this thing apart, I don't think any of it is glued. Like, I don't think I glued the top on or anything, so I'm just gonna try and pull all the screws out if I can find them, because this thing has a million holes in it and paint and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, gonna start taking this thing apart. As I just said, this thing was, it was just time. It needed to be replaced. Surprisingly, I was able to find all the screws in the top, and then I got that thing cut up on the saw, and then the rest of this just really came apart pretty easy. Now that middle cabinet section, I just kind of flip this thing over and push it off to the side because that is a decent amount of plywood right there. I think I'm going to reuse the plywood to make the cabinets inside the new bench, but that's going to be for another video. Sanding that coat of finish down with some 320, hitting it with another coat. So that's it, guys. That's the new bench. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. A couple things I do want to go over. I was very surprised at how, well, not really, because I've never built a torsion box before. I've watched videos of guys making them and stuff like that, and that the honeycomb interior is what keeps this thing from sagging, right? Keeps it flat. But I never actually made one myself, so I was super impressed. Like when we were picking this thing up and moving it around, it did not like bow at all, which is crazy. This thing, it is super strong and very, very solid. Now we did add, I know I pointed it out in the video, but I did add some legs in the middle here just to keep this thing from over time, if it wants to sag a little bit, it really has nowhere to go. A lot of guys make this that like Ron Polk style bench where they have openings in the side. I made this. This is 5 inches right here. So I only have 3.5 inches on the inside there. And I did not want openings there because I know myself, and I know that they will just get filled with junk throughout the day, and it'll be a nightmare for me at the end of the day trying to clear these openings out and stuff like that. So I have spots for all my things. Now I do need to build some drawers here for stuff that I like to keep at the bench, but I didn't want those openings just because, like I said, I know myself and I know they'll just get things thrown in there all day long. So that's why I didn't do that. But that's it, guys. If you have questions, leave them in the comments below. I appreciate everybody watching the channel. This is like, I'm enjoying making the videos, having fun, gonna really stay consistent with this thing. We've got some cool upcoming projects and I'm excited to share them with you guys. So we'll cover in another video. I wanna add some things to hang some small clamps on. I'm gonna add drawers. I might do, not sure if I'm gonna do drawers on both sides or drawers and then just some doors on the other side for some bigger items, but we'll figure that out. But this thing is ready to go. I will add a couple more coats of finish to this and that'll really be it. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.